Good afternoon, and welcome to this edition of Meet the Writers from the In-Depth Genealogist. My name is Shannon Combs-Bennett, and I'm here today with John Boeren, who is our writer on Dutch genealogy. He writes the column and occasional blog posts going in Dutch. Hello, John. How are you today?
Hello, Shannon. I'm fine, and it's really a pleasure to be with you today. And I'm hoping for a little bit fun to speak about genealogy and especially the Dutch genealogy today.
Oh, that's great. We're glad to have you. You're one of our international writers, which is something we're very proud of. We love learning about other countries and not only what they're like, but what the people are like and history. And we're so excited that you agreed to write for us.
Yeah, well, I also think it's a wonderful opportunity for me to show people what it is like to do genealogy in the Netherlands, because what I understand now is that doing genealogy in the Netherlands is way different than doing genealogy in the United States, for example. And I think there are a lot of difference between all the countries, but this gives me at least an opportunity to explain the readers what it is to do genealogy in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's very true. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, anything you'd like to make sure that the readers know about you, your background, your work. I know you have a company.
Yeah, I do. Well, I'm 42 years old. I was born and raised in the same city as I still live today. It's called Tilburg, and it's the sixth city of the Netherlands. I studied here. I studied law first, but I decided that being a lawyer or something like that was not really my thing to do. So I started to be involved in archival studies. So I went to the school for archivists in The Hague. And I worked for the regional archives here in Tilburg for almost 10 years, mainly helping people with doing their research. So I was working in the research department and I was trying to help people what records we had, how they could do research, how they could do genealogy and stuff like that. Because the archives were then a part of the local government, I was actually working for the local government.
Oh.
And after a couple of years, I started to do some other type of jobs for the local government. I am still involved with the local government because I need to pay my bills. And genealogy is a really nice thing to do, but it's very difficult in the Netherlands to have a full career in genealogy. So I still work 3 days for the local government, but in 2014 I got the idea that I wanted to do more with genealogy than just let it be a hobby. So I started to think about starting my own company, and that started on the 1st of January 2015. So I just finished my first year in the genealogy business, and I'm really excited and really enthusiastic to do more with this.
That's great. You know, a lot of people here in the U.S. start that way too. They start out, behind the scenes doing genealogy, and then they go part-time work, and then all of a sudden, a few years down the road, it's more genealogy and less work.
Exactly. Well, that's what I hope. I really hope that in a couple of years, let's say 5 years, or that I will be able to say goodbye to my normal job and really to be involved in genealogy all days of the week. That would really be a dream come true.
Oh, that's fantastic. It's a good goal to have. I wish you a lot of success in reaching it.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I need it because, as I said, it's really difficult in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. That's why sometimes I am jealous when I see online all those genealogists in the United States who have their own companies. And of course, I understand that not everybody has a big booming business. But if you compare that to the situation in the Netherlands, it's really different, because I think if you ask in the Netherlands for people who do genealogy in a professional way, and I mean professional in a way of trying to earn money with it, because you can also be working in a professional way but still being an amateur or a hobbyist or whatever.
Right.
But people who really try to make a living out of this, well, if we have 5 or 10, that's max.
Wow.
And I think that most of them are part-time genealogists, so they all have another job. And maybe if you ask who is a full-time genealogist and can even pay bills from this work, well, maybe there's 1, 2, but that's it. So I know it's going to be difficult for me to really start a business that will make enough money so that I really can pay my bills.
Right.
But it's a goal, and I really like to work on it.
I think you're well on your way.
Yeah.
So
that's also why I'm very thankful that I can do something with IDG, because it gives me a great opportunity to tell people in the United States about my business,
right.
About research in the Netherlands. And of course, there are a lot of people in the United States who at one point in their research will find someone who came from the Netherlands. For example, you. There is a lot of potential clients in the United States. And for me, it's a great opportunity to write in the magazine or to post a blog post just to show people, hello, I'm here.
Right.
If you need something from the Netherlands, you know where to find me.
Right. Actually, my husband and I both have.
No, that's great.
And ancestral line.
And do you know more about them, or did you stop doing research when you found out that they were from the Netherlands?
For my husband, I'm at that brick wall where I don't know where they're from there. I just know they give you the country. They don't tell you where on the records. So that's kind of stuck.
And what period in time is this?
They came over in the mid 1800s, so it should be easier.
Yeah,
to find.
True.
My ancestral line were colonists in New Netherlands, which is in New York, which is 1600s.
17th century. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luckily, they were wonderful record keepers here, and the records for a lot of the colony are still at the New York State Archives, and they have translations. You can't actually see the original records anymore. They're in a vault at the State Archives, but they have the translations of the court records and the colony papers available for researchers. So that's really good because I'm able to trace them through the colony. It's just making that leap backwards. I don't know. I may know the town they're from, but I have no idea how to find. But that's more difficult. So
I can understand, but under normal circumstances, even people from the 17th century, you should be able to find records about them in the Netherlands, because we have a great system, especially if you are doing research in the period between 1800 and now. We have a lot of records because we started with vital records in 1811.
Oh, wow.
And all births, all marriages, all deaths are registered. So you should be able to find people in that period. If you go before 1811, then you have to look in the church registers. But we have also from that period, from 1811 till, let's say, 1600, more or less, we also have a lot of church books still kept. And they are nowadays even digitized. So it's great to look for ancestors in also in the 17th century. But the thing is, of course, you should have a clue in what place to look. Because there are some databases, for example, for the period from 1811 till, let's say, 1930-40, you will find a lot of records in a database. But the period before 1811 is still there still has to be done a lot of research.
Right.
And not every person from that period will be in a database yet.
Right.
But I think it was your husband's family who were from the 1800s?
Yeah, their daughter was born here in the U.S. about 1870.
Oh,
So her
okay.
parents came over sometime before then.
Well, we should definitely try to see
To
if we
see.
can find more, because that should be, well, let's say more easy.
Right.
Doesn't mean that you can always find everybody, but we should really try to do that.
Yeah, it's just the way in the United States genealogy. We can't guarantee, but we might be able to find something.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yes.
is this type of information the information you cover in your column as well? You know,
Yeah,
record sets and dates?
yeah, that's what I try to do. I have written now a couple of articles, and I really started with, well, if you are new in genealogy, you start with things in your own family, what you can find. So I started from there, and I'm taking people now back in time. I already wrote about vital records. How does the system work? But also, can you find them online? We have a state level, we have a provincial level, we have local levels. So you will find a lot of databases from different levels. I wrote about that, and my last article was about censuses. We have a very different system than, for example, in the United States, because a census like you had several times, we have had only twice or three times.
Oh, wow.
At the beginning of the 19th century, but from 1850 on till 1939, and even after that period, we have what we call population registers. And where a census is like a photograph once of a family, these kind of registers will record everything that happened in a period of 10 or 20 years in this household. So let's say you get married in 1872. You and your husband will be on a page because that's the page for your house. And when your first child is born, the register would write down on the same page your first child. If the second is born, the second will be registered. If the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. If one of them dies within that time period of, let's say, 10 years, you will see that they scratch the name of the child and they put a date of death. So everything that happens in that period for 10 years will be recorded on that same page.
Wow.
And once the family thinks, hey, we want to move from one city to another city, the whole family will be scratched, and there will be a date and the place where they move to. And this makes it very easy to follow people either in their own place, because you can also move from one page to another page when, for example, you were living with your parents and you get married. But you can also follow people from one place to another place, to another place, to another place, until maybe you find the moment when they die.
Right.
So with this system, it's really nice to track people around the whole country. Of course, it gets more difficult if they leave the country, because then you will not find them in any register anymore.
I can hear in my head some American genealogists as they watch this thinking how lucky you are and how jealous they are.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways we are very lucky that we have these types of records, and that law from the very first beginning, already in the beginning of the 19th century, was so strict that people really had to follow all the rules. And maybe they were not happy by then, but we are definitely happy now that law really made them register a birth of their child and death and everything now. And the good thing is also, I don't know if that's also in the United States, but for example, all the registers for vital records were made, there were made 2 examples of them. So even if we had a fire in our own town hall, there was always a copy somewhere in a courthouse. So yeah, it's really a coincidence if both records would be destroyed. And that makes it so easy, at least in the 19th and the 20th century, to find a lot of information.
Yeah, no, we don't. Each jurisdiction here is different. So some have copies, some don't, some, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
It is hit or miss.
It's also the difference between how your country is organized and how our very, very little country is organized.
Right.
It's easy here to say as a state government, this is a new rule and we are all going to do it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes.
But that helps a lot, at least.
Yes, it does. And unfortunately, we also have a history, especially in some of our southern states, of burned counties where during the American Civil War, they were completely burned to the ground and all records were lost, which is a big problem with a lot of researchers. And then other types of natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes have wiped out entire places. Well, we are at the actually towards the end of our time limit that we have. So is there anything that you want to pass on, any resources, books, or tips in general you might have for anyone who is doing Dutch research besides contacting you?
Well, I think a good place for people who want to know more about genealogy in the Netherlands would be first the wiki from Family Search, because they have a lot of pages about genealogy in the Netherlands. For example, if you want to read again what I said about population registers or the censuses in the Netherlands, they have written articles about that as well. So I think that's a very good place to start. Of course, we have a lot of databases. There is even one national database called Who Was Who, but in Dutch you would say Wie was wie. But it also has an English interface. So that makes it more easy for people also from the United States to use that database. And the website is wiewaswie.nl. If you Google, I think you can find also Who Was Who or something like that. And I think that's also a good start if you really want to see in a database if you can find one of your families. And well, I can also say if people really, really, really need to help, they can always try me, of course. My company is called Antecedentia. It's a contraction of two words, like antecedents and scientia, the Latin word for knowledge. So if you want to know more about your ancestors in the Netherlands, you can always try me.
Thanks, John. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure our readers do too.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was very nice to speak with you today, and I hope that everybody has a great time with doing genealogy in the Netherlands.
So do I. And remember, check out our magazine, Going In Depth, which you can find on the In-Depth Genealogist website. We hope that you subscribe and take time to read John's articles. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.